Play ball, Montana. That's the main takeaway from the Montana High School Association's letter to schools on Monday morning. That and its return to fall activities guidelines start the season as scheduled on time, but of course, some changes are in store.
Along with the National Federation of State High School Associations, the MHSA Executive Board believes the resumption of sports and other activities is crucial to the growth, development, and mental and emotional wellness of our Montana youth.
With that in mind, the MHSA Executive Board set out to find the appropriate directives, requirements, and considerations to conduct activities this fall. The result? A 5-tier proposal that dictates how sports can be played depending on Montana's coronavirus status at the time.
Tier 1, we're starting. We have all these restrictions and requirements and considerations in place. But let's say we have an interruption. Then we can look at Tier 2 where we're going to cancel non-conference games. If we have a longer interruption, then we can look at Tier 3 where we cancel all non-conference games and shorten the conference schedules. Tier 4 would be even a longer, maybe we start and play for quite a while and then get a real long interruption. Then we're going to have to look at shortening that conference season, maybe even ending it at that time, and look at different playoff formats. You know, are we going to have divisional and district volleyball tournaments at one side, or are we going to do a playoff? Tier 5 is where it's been, you know, maybe a tough year like this spring was, but we can maybe have some kind of play at the end and maybe even look at a postseason.
Another big change is the removal of multi-team events in the sports of football, volleyball, and soccer.
If we're going to make sure that the disease is not going to be easily transmitted, you don't want to bring a ton of kids together in one spot. In regard to the sport and how the sport's played, that's important.
Other multi-team sports like cross country and golf will be allowed, but with multiple changes, including the limitations to the number of golfers on the course, plus groups will be limited to teammates only rather than athletes from different schools. Cross country will have shotgun starts and athletes must remain in their staging areas, then return to the bus after crossing the finish line. As for the fans, with different directives in different cities and counties across Montana, that's up to the schools to work with those health departments to be able to host an event.
It was an easy recommendation for me to make to our board because going through the Legion baseball season and following that, each site had different county regulations saying you can have this many or you can do this or that, which that's their call. So we want to make sure we leave it there so the schools can work with them, you know, submit plans like the baseball teams had to do and get those approved.
There will be different changes for different sports. In fact, the All-State Band, Choir, and Orchestra Music Festival is the lone cancellation to date. But Beckman says one thing is for certain: if Montana is to conduct a successful activity schedule this school year.
Well, it's pretty simple that if we want to play and we want to continue to play, we got to follow these rules and guidelines.
So still plenty remains to be seen depending on where Montana as a state is at different times throughout the season, but you can find that entire conversation with Mark Beckman, Executive Director of the MHSA. It's at montanasports.com. Richie Melby, MTN Sports.